top of the table.
Are you someone who says, "What's the hurry, man? We'll do that tomorrow"? And is the usual response of your friends and family similar to, "Your tomorrow never comes"? If you nodded your head, then my friend, you are a procrastinator. But well, let's not just label you. Let's find the reason why you keep postponing the tasks. Hello and a very warm welcome to Top of the Table. I am your host Sheetal Sharma, and to help us identify this problem, we have with us clinical psychologist Jaswandi Sahasrabudhe. Hi Jaswandi.
Hi, Sheetal.
So Jaswandi, I think everyone is guilty of pushing some tasks to the back burner, or lately I have done that, and I'm sure you must have done that sometime too. Then do we call ourselves procrastinators as well?
Sheetal, to be more specific, I would say not everyone is procrastinating when they're actually putting things in the back burner. I would say there are specific traits, okay, which help us understand what are the red flags or what are the signs that make us feel, oh, no, I'm not just putting the things in the back burner. However, I'm actually procrastinating. So, there are three kinds of procrastinators. The first one is the avoider. The second one is the optimistic. And the third one is pleasure seeker. Now, let's get to know each one of this trait in more deeper way. So, the avoider is a person who just puts things off because these things make that person feel bad. Whether the specific emotion of anxiety, boredom, overwhelmness, or anything, they just feel uncomfortable when they are doing that task. And that's why they tend to avoid it. That's why they are called as an avoider. So there are few examples that I would like to give about avoider. So for example, you are an avoider. If you get anxious when others talk about job you are trying to avoid, you make excuses about why the work isn't done. So I would say I am mostly when I don't feel comfortable, I am into this trait. The second one is the optimistic. Is when the person is actually consistently thinking about a task that it will not take that long. And he's so optimistic that he or she is not able to finish the job. Basically, this trait is where you tend to underestimate the time required to complete the task and thus delay the task by thinking, okay, I have enough time, man, I can actually do it. So you are an optimistic. If others tend to tell you you're too confident, at times you do not have even created a plan B because you were so confident that you would be able to do it and you underestimated the time. The third and the last trait is very interesting. People would say it is very similar to the first one. However, this is called as the pleasure seeker. Here, the person does not do what they are supposed to do until you genuinely feel like doing it. So it is basically if the person is not getting the gratification of actually doing it, he or she or they might not actually do it and avoid doing that job. And deliberately, they would choose to do something that they really like to do. So you can understand that are you a pleasure seeker if you regularly shut down things and ask for alternatives. And I'm sure many of you might have said, oh yeah, I tend to do this, man. So these are the three traits, Sheetal, or three types of procrastinators. And these are the three signs I would say which we should be looking at if we feel that we are procrastinating on a task.
Well, that's a very interesting take, Jaswandi. In fact, a lot of researchers also talk about the concept of time inconsistency as the reason for procrastination. So, let me simplify the concept for our listeners. So, the human brain functions in a way that it seeks immediate reward for actions. Like you spoke about gratification and instant gratification, right? So, when you do an action, you want it to be gratified immediately. So, if you're feeling hungry, you know you will have your meal and feel full, right? The chances of you procrastinating that when it comes to having your meal is far lesser than you procrastinating hitting the gym to lose those extra 10 kgs, which is causing a health risk, despite you knowing that it causes the health risk as well, because the result of this action isn't immediate and it'll take time.
So true, Sheetal. I'm sure you remember I was talking to you about how I have been procrastinating about hitting the gym. As you rightly said, it is human tendency to seek instant gratification. For example, as someone who wants to actually hit the gym for a particular reason with a particular goal, if they are not getting that instant gratification, or if they are not able to see the immediate effects of like hitting the gym or going to gym regularly, the person might say, oh, you know what, I will try to go to the gym tomorrow. Oh, I'm so tired today, I will surely try to go to the gym on Thursday. Now why are you doing it? Basically you're trying to postpone doing the task because you don't see any immediate effect. And when you don't see immediate effect, basically you're going into a loop of, since you're not going to the gym, you're not seeing the effects, and since you're not seeing the effects, you're ultimately not going to the gym. So I would say it is very important to start with setting up small short term goals rather than deciding, okay, you know what, I'm going to go to the gym for say 365 days. And Sheetal, I gave you the example of how I designed it. I was a person who was not at all health conscious, or I would say exercise enthusiast, but I realized that, okay, I need to start getting more healthy because of the sedentary lifestyle that I have. So I started with a fitness program, and initially I just started with 1 month. I had decided, okay, I have to be consistent for 1 month. That's how after a month I started realizing, oh, it really makes me feel good when I do the exercise. And that helped me to actually enroll for next 3 to 4 months. Now if you see, if I would have actually decided to go for a long term goal of saying 6 months subscription, I'm sure I would not have even gone for 2 months.
Absolutely, Jaswandi. And but tell me, what happens after you procrastinate? I mean, I'm sure it's a negative loop that you get caught in, right?
Yes, I would say we might procrastinate at times to stop feeling the negative emotions. But you know, Sheetal, when you actually when you actually start procrastinating, your aim of actually working on the negative emotions also worsen up, because we are unable to associate procrastination and its result with our future self. What we are doing is we are dissociating ourselves and not associating ourselves. So to make things work, we are unable to actually be thoughtful, future oriented, and that increases the stress level. Again, that's why you start procrastinating. So when faced with a task that makes us feel, say, anxious or insecure, there is I would say a part of the brain called amygdala that is called as a threat detector. Basically what it does is it tells you, oh my god, there is a threat, it's a genuine threat. In this case, what happens is that our self-esteem and well-being goes for a toss. Even if we intellectually recognize that putting off the things will create more stress for ourselves, we are not able to stop our brain from making it realize that, okay, this is not a threat, I actually have to work on it. So researchers have also called procrastination as amygdala hijack. Unfortunately, we can't tell ourselves how to stop procrastinating, or even we cannot tell our brain, oh, you need to stop procrastinating. We need to know what are the hacks to actually reduce these amygdala hijacks by focusing on the question of, why am I not doing this task, or why am I procrastinating? What is the cause of my procrastination?
True, Jaswandi. And like we say in each and every podcast of ours, right, that there is a reason for how you feel a particular way, how you behave a particular way. And the answers for all of that is that you basically, read the patterns, read the cycles, understand your childhood trauma, understand the behavioral patterns that you have been witnessing, you are caught into. And I think a lot of those answers lie there, isn't it?
Yes, and Cheetal, I'm sure the listeners have thought that instant gratification is the only reason why we procrastinate. But I would say there are so many other causes, or I would say triggers, that make us actually associate our negative thoughts and help us, like, and not help us, I would say, take us to a level of where we start procrastinating in almost everything. Like, let's take an example. At times we tend to procrastinate on a certain task which you don't feel comfortable with. Now if we start asking the question, why are we not feeling comfortable There might be so many reasons. It might include some traumatic event that you have actually experienced before when you were a kid. It can be as simple as giving a presentation. There are people who have been procrastinating on going on stage and speaking about something because it might be that they had a traumatic childhood memory of they standing on the stage and a lot of other things. So not just instant gratification, but childhood trauma also plays an important role when we actually understand the triggers of procrastination. The second or the third reason I would say is the aversion towards the task. Like, I'll tell you, there are people who really do not like doing certain tasks, and when they are exposed to doing that task, they feel very uncomfortable and they feel it's not very that's not important for me to do it. So if I feel I'm not comfortable and it's not important, I tend to ignore it. But this task will have to be done in some or the other on some other the day. Now when I'm procrastinating and still I have uncomfortable emotions associated to it, it will again form a loop, which will leave to say us thinking about how incapable I am, which will increase your self doubt, lower your self esteem, increase your anxiety to a certain extent.
True, Jaswandi. So clearly, since the reasons could be one of these or many of these, the solution too cannot be one, right? So, is there a starting point for anyone and everyone that cuts across all these triggers that you spoke about?
Yes, so Sheetal, as you rightly said, we cannot have one shoe fits all. So it's not that what I tell you right now will help everyone. However, I would say there are three basic steps that we can start with. The first step and the most important, according to me, is to actually recognize that you are procrastinating and to understand what is the trigger. As we were talking about, there might be several triggers and not just one cause. You need to understand, why am I procrastinating on this particular task? What is the root cause? Why am I doing it? What triggers it? Once you start understanding it, comes the next step, which is eat the dirtiest frog first. Complete the work that you are the most uncomfortable with. Complete the task that you are not very confident about, you are least confident about. Once you complete that, you feel, oh, I have covered half the distance. It's only a few minutes that I have to walk more. So once you eat a dirtiest frog, comes the third step, I would say, is to divide the rest of the work, rest of the tasks in small, minute, achievable tasks. Now, when you actually cut down to say one task, cutting it down to three smaller tasks, and you achieve one small task, you feel, oh, I have actually achieved it. I'm sure I will be able to achieve the other two tasks as well. So, these three steps, I would say, in any situation, in any trigger, with any cause, you can start with these three steps and try to work on your trait of procrastination.
True, Jaswandi. And one last question that I have. So, I mean, when you are talking about procrastination, okay, we've spoken about how the brain functions, what you're thinking, the kind of procrastinators, but how does procrastination impact your relationships, professional or personal? Can you just shed some light on that?
Yes, so Sheetal, I would say, as we were talking about how procrastination affects your brain, how procrastination affects your well-being, it does affect or has impact on your relationship. Because you think about it, you were supposed to. I will give you a small example. It might be, let's take a relation of two friends. Now, I was supposed to meet one of my friend on, say, a particular day at a particular time, and because I am say I'm not complete. I have not completed task A and B. I meet her with that thing of, okay, I want to complete the task A and B. The deadlines are coming. I have procrastinated it enough. I'm supposed to be sharing it to the day after. And with all of that stress, all of that anxiety, you meet the friend who you're meeting after a long time. Now, do you really think you will be having a meaningful conversation with her? No, because somewhere you are preoccupied with the procrastinated tasks that you are doing. The second way to look at it, Sheetal, would be that at times we tend to procrastinate things in our relationship also, because you tend to procrastinate talking about, say, how you feel about a certain situation, how you have not been able to work on a particular emotion. Now, when you are procrastinating on that, and again, when you start talking to your partner, you tend to feel there's something, some miss, which leads to your relations getting more toxic, more uncomfortable, and there you tend to feel a drift, or there's some gap in your relationship. So I would, yes, say, not just on your workplace, in your workplace, or in general well-being, procrastination also affects and has an impact on your relationships.
Well, thank you, Jaswanti, for giving out all that information. And to sum it all up, I'll say that procrastination is not laziness, like we've established in this podcast. Procrastination stems from a very deep rooted feeling which does not build the link between your actions and its results. The human brain is wired for instant gratification because that gives us a surge of happy hormones. Having said that, the truth is procrastination can impact your relationships, personal as well as professional. Therefore, it is necessary to set the bar a bit low, create smaller targets for yourself so that you can feel better after achieving all those small targets at the end of the day and not be filled with a sense of unfulfillment. Take these small steps, and you will see a humongous difference, not in just yourself, but your relationships as well. So, thank you so much, Jaswandi, for giving out all these important insights and information to our listeners. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. We will be back again the next time round.